All right, so now that we talked about some of the more common management protocols, we're now going to turn our attention to remote communication protocols, and specifically the ones at the application layer that we're going to take a look at is Telnet, Secure Shell, and the remote desktop protocol. So let's go ahead and let's talk about Telnet. So the first thing that I want you to understand regarding Telnet is that it is a legacy protocol, meaning that we really don't use it anymore. Well, why is that? Well, that's because Telnet sends everything over the network in clear text. And in this day and age where cybersecurity and network security is a huge concern, we don't want things going across the network in clear text. We want it to be secure and encrypted. So that's where SSH comes into play. SSH, which we're going to talk about a bit more on the next slide, it does the exact same thing as Telnet, but it does so via encrypted data. So we've replaced Telnet for the most part with SSH. Now, in regards to Telnet and SSH, the purpose of them is to allow us to connect to remote hosts and remote systems to allow us to manage them from a centralized area. So let's say that I am an IT administrator. I manage a network that has several different floors, and on each floor we have managed network devices such as routers and switches and servers, but I don't want to have to go to each floor to connect to them, to configure them, to make changes to them, so I can use Telnet or SSH instead. And what they allow us to do is they allow us to get a terminal connection, and this is a terminal. I'll go ahead and highlight this entire thing. So when we think about command prompt, we're talking about a terminal connection. We can simply say terminal, or we can say command prompt. In Unix, in Linux, in the Mac OS, we call it terminal. In Windows, we call it command prompt. And it allows us to get that command line interface where we can manage that device, make changes to it, and so forth. So we don't actually have to walk up several flights of stairs to do so. We can do so directly from our desktop system at our desk. Now, getting back to Telnet, we still use it, but we don't use it over the network. Now, when we're talking about managed network devices, such as routers and switches, they will have ports that you can directly connect to them with and still connect via Telnet. So since we're directly connected to it, we're not over the network, we can actually use Telnet and get that command line interface, and we don't worry that it's in clear text because it's not going over the network. So that's Telnet, and Telnet uses port 23, and it also uses TCP. Now let's actually take a look at SSH. So SSH stands for Secure Shell, and the Secure Shell protocol utilizes port 22 and it utilizes TCP. Now, like I said on the last slide, it encrypts everything, so it is a cryptographic protocol. And it's used to securely connect to a remote host, like we talked about on the last slide. And it utilizes commonly a terminal console, but if you're on a Windows system, you may connect to it via a command prompt as well. And in regards to the operating systems, you can use it on Unix, you can use it on Linux, you can use it on Mac OS, you can use it on Windows. So it's widely available. Now, in terms of how it encrypts the data, it encrypts it with PKI, which is the public key infrastructure. We're not going to talk about how PKI works in this course, but if you move on to a cybersecurity course, you're definitely going to learn the basics of how PKI works. All you need to know in this course is that it is a method of encrypting our data across the network. And since we've already talked about what Telnet and SSH does, I'm not going to rehash on that. I just want you to understand that it is our secure replacement for Telnet, and it utilizes port 22 and it utilizes TCP. So that's Telnet and SSH. Let's take a look at the remote desktop protocol. So while Telnet and SSH allow you to get a terminal connection, which is a command prompt to a remote system, RDP takes it a step further, and it allows you to get a graphical user interface to that remote system. So what is RDP? Well, RDP stands for the Remote Desktop Protocol, and it uses port 3389, and it uses TCP just like Telnet and SSH. Now, RDP is a proprietary protocol to Microsoft, meaning that it's baked into the Microsoft operating system, whether that be Windows Server or Windows 10 or an older Microsoft operating system. And what you can do within Windows is you can pull up the remote desktop connection application, which you see right here. You can type in the name or the IP address of a system that has RDP enabled, and you can remotely connect to it. So it allows users to remotely connect to, view, and control remote computers from your system. And if we take a look at this picture here, what you're going to notice is that we have a picture of a desktop, but right here in the center, this is a remote desktop connection. So this right here is actually our RDP connection. As you see right here, it says that we're connected to dc1.alnet.com. And in this screenshot, I'm on my Windows 10 machine and I'm connecting to my Windows Server machine from that. And it gives me that GUI interface, and it looks just like it would when you're on that system. So that's what RDP does. It's a great little tool. It's a great protocol, and it's a very, very robust way to remotely manage systems from a GUI interface if you don't want to have to manage that device from a command line interface. So anyways, that's going to conclude our lecture where we talked about our remote communication protocols. Specifically, we only talked about a few of them. We only talked about Telnet, SSH, and RDP. So if you have any question about what was covered in this lecture, please let me know. If not, thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the next video. Take care. Well, I hope that you enjoyed today's video and you learned a lot from it. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up and also consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. Now, if you're interested in taking this full course or just learning more about it, check out the video description down below because I've included a link where you can learn more about the course and enroll into it if you'd like. So again, thanks for watching my video. I appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you guys at the next video. Take care.